You might think this story is about freedom, about leaving everything behind, about walking away. It's not. It's about a very specific kind of loneliness, the kind that doesn't hurt at first, the kind that feels like relief. There are moments when being alone doesn't feel like sadness, it feels like rest, silence after too much noise, air after holding your breath for too long. And that's exactly why this story fools so many people, because for most of the time, the escape seems to work. Christopher McCandless doesn't leave the world because he hates people. He lives because being in the world requires constant negotiation, and he doesn't know how to sustain that. Family, expectations, contradictions, unspoken promises. All of that demands presence, and presence sometimes feels too heavy. So he chooses to live. He changes his name, abandons money, cuts visible ties, and he calls it a choice. He calls it autonomy. He calls it truly living. And for a while, it works. On the road, he meets people, he talks, he listens, he trades stories, but he never stays. He always leaves before the bond becomes heavy, before someone needs him, before affection starts to demand continuity. That isn't coldness, it is a strategy. Because leaving early hurts less than staying until the end. Because leaving creates a sense of control. Because disappearing feels like a way to protect yourself. And from the outside, it looks like courage. It looks like coherence. It looks like someone being true to himself. Alaska appears as the final promise, a place without noise, without expectations, without people asking for anything, a space where he can exist without function, without role, without a previous story, just body, nature, and silence. And at first, the silence welcomes him. It organizes things, it gives meaning. Loneliness there doesn't feel like punishment, it feels like clarity. But there's a difference the film never says out loud. One thing is choosing to be alone, another is needing in order to keep functioning. Because when everything depends only on you, every mistake weighs twice as much, and there's no one to correct with you, no one to share the fear, no one to witness the limit. Slowly, freedom begins to lose its shape, not because of nature's cruelty, but because absolute autonomy demands a silent cost. The body weakens, choices narrow, and what once looked like strength starts to look like fragility without support, and only then does something change. Not as redemption, not as a beautiful lesson, but as a realization too simple to ignore. The idea that happiness is only real when shared doesn't arrive as a solution, it arrives too late. It doesn't save, it doesn't fix, it doesn't comfort. It only reveals something that was always there, but that only makes sense when there's no limit left to use it. And that's what makes Into the Wild so unsettling, because the film doesn't say that running away is wrong. It shows that running away works. It works until the moment you need someone, and there's no one left. Maybe the problem was never want to be alone. Maybe the problem is believing that isolation protects you from what you are avoiding. How many times did you disappear and feel like the best option? Not dying, just living the scene. Stopping replies, stopping explanations, stopping the effort of sustaining expectations that exhaust you. How many times did that feel like this? When it was really just temporary relief. The film doesn't accuse Christopher, and you don't have to accuse those who make similar choices either. It simply observes. It shows what happens when you confuse autonomy with disappearance, when you call escape maturity, when you believe that needing someone with when we believe that needing someone is weakness, because bonds don't exist only for comfort. They exist for correction, for limits, for mutual care. Without that, freedom becomes a space too large to hold on your own. Maybe that's why this story stays with us, because it's not about nature, it's about the difficulty of staying. Staying when we charm fades, when the other person fails, when the bond begins to demand more than silence. And maybe the most honest question the film leaves isn't whether he was right or wrong, but how many times we choose to live, not because we want freedom, but because we no longer know how to stay. If it is mirror reached you somewhere hard to name, stay, subscribe. Here, stories aren't entertainment, they are mirrors, and some of them reflect exactly what we spend a lifetime trying not to face directly.